Relevant to our interests is brought to you by An Honorable Death. Taste the respect. It's delicious.
Hi, I'm Frank, and with me as always is...
John, probably.
Yes, and we are relevant to our interests. An old podcast brought anew. So
Revived, like some sort of horrible beast found in a cave with like a 5-number push lock.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe it was one of those disc lock they make you, all of the storage facilities make you get now.
Yeah, those two. I was more referring to what's coming later.
That seems fair.
Like, boop, 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 boop.
That's actually a good point. So yes, for those 5 of you that used to listen to the old podcast, this is much like the old podcast. We are doing a few things differently though. For those of you who are new listeners,
like Frank, he's dead the whole time.
Yeah, it's true. So one thing, the old podcast, we used to do little skits before each episode. I guess we should say what this is. This is relevant to our interests. It's a podcast where we just talk about the stuff that interests us. And we have a pretty wide range of stuff that interests us.
Yeah.
Particularly...
Our tastes are varied.
There's a lot of overlap between John and I, although there's a lot of stuff falls outside of that. Yeah. That Venn diagram of overlap. And sometimes it's fun to see what the other person has outside of that range.
It is interesting because on like your end, at least from what I've seen, the things that I like that you don't, you can passively tolerate them.
Yeah.
And then the things that you really like that I don't, I passionately despise.
It's kind of true. But anyway, so who we are and what we do, we're 2 dudes that live in Utah, which apparently is the nerd capital of the country.
It really is.
Which I guess in a way I think that's fantastic. But
I have a thought on that.
We can. We can. I guess you can give the thought if you want.
Yeah. Mormons don't drink.
That's a fair point. Neither of us are Mormon, and we don't drink, really. You because it'll kill you.
Yeah.
Maybe because I just don't. Once in a while, but
yeah, you've just kind of lost the taste for it, and it will actively murder me.
Yeah. So there's that. But we have, like I say, we have a wide range of interests. And the old podcast, which we're going to talk about a little bit now. We started in 2015, and we got a good 5 years out of it. It had its moments of lulls where we'd go 2 or 3 months without recording much. We've actually kind of planned that into this new podcast because we're doing seasons.
Yeah.
Then 2020 hit, and things just kind of soured. We recorded a few episodes in 2020. It went 4 or 5, I think. 5 or 6. I can't remember how many.
Yeah, but we had a bunch of life stuff that sort of creeped up on us.
And then we made an attempt in 2021, roughly about 9 months after the last episode we recorded in 2020. We got a couple episodes there, and then once again life stuff took us away.
That's an interesting way to say descended like the fist of an angry god.
Yeah. And then we made one attempt in 2022, and it was like an update, like, hey, this is what's going on in our lives, and then your life sort of shattered, right? Essentially.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so I opted not to edit the episode. And at that point, the old podcast, I think, was pretty well dead. But we definitely wanted to keep doing this. And so we've kind of refocused this last year, and here we are recording a new episode and a new podcast. The name is the same, but I guess the branding's different. I don't know how to put that.
You know when those like serial killers will take the face off of one of their victims
That's
and
not where I was
staple
gonna
it
go
onto
with this,
their
but-
face. I know that's where I'm going with this, Frank. That's basically what we have now. We have that staple face where it's been stapled onto the.
I was gonna say, you know how every now and then they'll relaunch a game franchise by just pretending like the new game is the first game in the franchise, much like and every example I'm going to give is kind of bad, like much like the new Saints Row or the new Lords of the Fallen or the what was it? This is a good example. The new Doom.
Yeah.
Or
So that one was good. That one was.
yeah, that's what I say. This is a difference.
Doom 2016 is fucking amazing.
This is what I'm
and
saying.
Doom Eternal, also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Doom Tango, as it were, is just
and
lovely.
Wolfenstein, and the new Wolfenstein games as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was going to go with it.
So basically what I said.
Yeah.
Really.
So we're kind of relaunching this. Now that said, we're every other week. We're going to go with that schedule. I think it's a little more tenable for both of us. To do, and once we get comfortable, we may shift to weekly. That said, we will be taking a little bit of time off. We won't be taking time off on our usual planned thing this year because we're just starting. And one was right around the holidays, usually from the beginning of December to like the beginning of January, mid-January.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that this time because we're just getting started, and would be ridiculous.
That would be silly.
Would be ridiculous to release one episode, like 3 episodes, and be like, all right, we're done. We'll talk to you next year. The other planned hiatus is in the summer, like the end of June through July, basically. And between each hiatus, that'll be a season. So that's kind of our plans. About what we're talking about, like I say, basically anything we enjoy. Can be anything from comics to video games to tabletop games to movies, TV shows, chupacabrism.
Yeah, indeed. There are several things that start with C that I am very, very interested in, and 2 of them are chupacabras and cannibals.
It's true. We'll try to rein that in. We'll also be talking.
You're funny, Frank. You're hilarious.
We'll also be occasionally having guests on. Just people we think are cool. People think we're interesting, and they range a gamut. We've got a lot of friends who do stuff, from cosplay to acting, directing, writing, and so.
Yeah. Well, and I have one of my friends that's in like a slowly kind of gaining a respectful audience, actual play D&D podcast thing. That's the other thing. Like so we just kind of run the gamut. Like we'd be like, hey, do you want to come on our podcast and talk to the 5 cool people that listen to us and anyone else who might. Hi Dan.
So all of that said, the topics are going to range pretty broadly. One theme that we ended up getting kind of falling into with the old podcast is and understandably it was the early day. It's kind of the early mid days of the MCU. We ended up falling into this trap where we talked a lot about the MCU, and part of it was the Netflix series because I loved Daredevil, and we really enjoed Jessica Jones and stuff. I love
Daredevil. Love Jessica Jones. I actually still talk with my partner about Luke Cage.
I liked Luke Cage
just because that.
I got Mike Coulter's autograph hanging on my wall here in my office.
I mean, I like ultimately I just had like ultimately I figured out exactly where the disconnect for me, and it's not even a problem with the series. It's just a disconnect for me. But that's one where they fixed it in the second season.
Yeah.
Because the second season, oh god, that second season, Luke Cage.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Luke Cage.
Got the vapor.
So we're gonna be talking about all sorts of stuff. And that said, we're not a political podcast. That's not where our focus is. But because of the way the political environment in this country is now, very different from when we started the first podcast. When stuff that is quote unquote political comes up, which personally I feel a lot of this shit is just people trying to live their lives, and a certain faction of the country has their panties in a bunch over for some reason I don't understand. We will not necessarily shy away from it. And so
I apologize to all the left-handed. That was a joke, people. Come
on. It wasn't a joke. He hates left-handed people with a passion. You know, my dad was left-handed.
You mean you're half left-handed?
I'm half left-handed.
All right, we're done. This is over.
All right. So anyway, one of the things that being said, on the off weeks, for a while anyway, we've got like 135 episodes, although probably about a third of them we're not going to re-release.
Yeah, there's some real question mark.
And then there's some of them that I want to do a complete revisit on, so we're not going to re-release those just because of that. But on the off weeks, because we're doing this every other week, on the off weeks we're going to release old episodes as classic, relevant to our interests, and it's a lot of fun because we did touch on some pretty cool stuff. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Gravity Falls.
That was a good one. My kaiju episode, I'm still very proud of that one.
The kaiju one was very cool.
I'd still like, that's one that I wouldn't necessarily mind coming back to, because there's a number of big kaiju movies that are coming out soon, and then the Monarch series on Apple.
I think with that
TV, which angers me because I have to pick up goddamn Apple.
Yeah,
TV.
But you can finish watching Severance, which I wouldn't actually mind covering on this.
That is also true.
That's one of those episodes that we might release a classic episode, like while we do like a one or two part or a 3-part episode about that topic. To kick things off, though, John and I picked a movie that we really adore. And this week we're doing John's movie. It may be a few episodes before we actually get to mine because John doesn't have a way to watch it. It's not on any streaming. Yeah. Well, it is. We have to buy it outright. I have a physical copy.
Yeah.
John doesn't.
Yeah, we're looking at possibly figuring out some kind of trip out there, and then I'd watch it and record.
Yeah. So, but this week John's movie is accessible and
on Shudder
and
YouTube.
And that movie,
and it is called PG Psycho Goreman.
Goreman. So
Psycho Goreman.
Bam, bam, bam. I find a musical stinger for right there.
Nah, I think we should keep just you going. Like, I think you should cut out you going bam, bam, bam just now and have that be the magical.
Actually, I think, you know what I think would be fun is just cut that out and like edit it so it's like really epic sounding. Like lots of reverb and like layer. And I can cut that one out too.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Actually, one of the cool, we haven't decided on a new theme yet, but we'll figure it out. I kind of want to just make it us going music with like a drum beat.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like that too. You know, I was also thinking it'd be a little more complicated, but could be. At least, I mean, I don't understand music-y stuff because I don't music.
Yeah.
But something if we had something akin to like a dueling banjos or something, but it has like music that kind of sounds like our general vibes.
Yeah.
You know, where I get this like I get this bit of a screeching and bouncing, followed by like low, like deep low notes, and then you'd be a little more stable or homey or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what you think of your vibe.
You're like, I don't care, whatever.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it'd be like, like the like do,
Yeah.
Frank doing his thing, and then like the.
I mean, that's something we could come up with. Maybe that could be a season 2 replacement for the theme. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But anyway, Psycho Goreman. What is it?
Psycho Goreman.
Plot synopsis. Short and sweet plot synopsis. A couple of kids discover a magical seal and a gem that they take out of a thing and unleash.
I have an elevator pitch version of the plot.
All right, go ahead. Give us the elevator pitch version of it, because
it's E.T. if E.T. was Satan.
That's fair. So yeah, the kids find this alien being who wants to destroy the universe, and they can the little girl who gets the gem can control him with the gem.
The gem of Peroxidike.
And yeah, and she does. And she's psychotic. But what this is.
Oh yeah, she's absolutely the most dangerous character in that entire movie.
She's a little unhinged. The protagonist is very unhinged. But what this is it's a children's movie. It's not a children's movie. I mean, it's not. It's a satire of children's movies from the 80s and 90s.
It's a satire and an homage.
To
the children films of the 80s and 90s specifically.
Yeah, and so so John and I came up with, because we have nothing better to do, I guess, we came up with a. And you can disagree or agree with this. We haven't refined this yet. We're in the process of doing that. But we came up with a Venn diagram of children's movies from the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And there's 3 circles, and they overlap, obviously. One of them is the kids find magical creature, and this is firmly in that camp. And it doesn't have to be magic. Aliens are magical, John.
Yeah, aliens are magic. Robots are magic. Anything that is outside of the norm and adorable on some level.
Yeah, and yeah, robots are magic. Magical creatures are magic.
Although, yeah, this is a slight deviation, but I need to remember it. There's a show that's like The Last Mimsy or something like that. A bunch of kids fall around this little creature that's made of light and everything.
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually seen the movie.
It's weird. It's odd, and I might be equating it with a different movie or whatever. But the thing is that at the end they like help this guy go. They help this little thing going, and it goes and merges with this giant warship that's like buried under a hill near their homes, and it like rises up out. It's like raining things down, like there's buildings falling off the top of it that are like crashing down onto people's homes and everything.
Huh.
And it's like this is not, you're not with the good guy. This is not the good guy. What the hell?
I kind of want to watch that. I don't necessarily want to maybe cover that on the podcast, but I kind of want to watch that now.
Yeah.
So Psycho Goreman falls firmly in the camp of magical creature.
Were you going to finish? Did you want to finish explaining the full?
Yeah. So the other 2 circles are the kids going on an adventure. The biggest example, and often involving pirates, John.
Yeah, your Goonies, your Goonies is the
Buttercream Gang.
The Buttercream Gang, which I'm still not sure wasn't a fever dream, honestly.
No, it's real. It's a real film. They made it. Somebody made it. Then the last one is Kid Power. And oftentimes there's these fall into, there's like a smaller Venn diagram of movies in this, but it's primarily your sports movies are Home Alone type films. That is the final circle. I'm gonna have to cut some of that out because I lost my train of thought. But then there's right. Obviously there's movies that kind of fall in the overlaps. But the director, Steven, I got his name, Steven Kostanski. He clearly has a love of nerd shit.
Oh yeah. Like there's a point where you have Psycho Goreman dressed in the exact clothes of the
it's Sam Neill's character from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, he's in the exact costume.
Like he's not. It's like the fact that he's from a planet Gygax.
Yes, planet Gygax, where ancient Gygaxian sorcerers.
Which, and for those of you, if you're listening to this podcast, this is the first episode, so if you haven't cut out by now, we're both very big into tabletop role playing. If you don't know,
I even built my own system. That's how big a nerd I am.
And if you don't know anything about tabletop role playing, Gary Gygax was one of the two creators of Dungeons and Dragons, which sort of launched that whole concept. Steven Kostanski, though, he's Canadian. This is a Canadian film, and he's fairly young. I don't remember his birthday. He's definitely a quote unquote millennial, but he does a lot of creature stuff. He's done it, and he's directed a number of other horror films. And so this wasn't his first. He's clearly got a love for the genre, which is, you can kind of tell. And you can kind of tell he's got a love for these kids movies too.
Yeah. There's a lot of, and one of the reasons why I think this is my favorite is that I'm normally not I'm not a big fan of nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, but this I think is an example of a story that takes the nostalgia and does something different and interesting with it. Like they really change it up, because like it really, in a lot of ways, like if you were to remove the gore, and sort of and like dial down some of the intensity of the characters by like just one or two notches, it would just be one of the like magical story things. Like even down to the I have learned of the true power comes from within, the power of love.
Yeah.
And I will use it to destroy the universe.
And so, yeah, and that's the thing, is you have basically kind of almost a negative photograph wise, a negative of what you'd expect for these characters and their personality types.
Oh yeah,
because
yeah. But the thing is that, if you flip it and it's like textbook. It is a textbook. Yeah. Children's magical event, like the Magical Critter Adventure.
You have, for instance, the young girl that plays Mimi, the main protagonist. Mm. She does a very good job of just being psychotic. She's fantastic. And this is, you can say, this is her only credited role at the moment. I don't know if she's going to go into acting when she gets older or not, but if she does, she will. She's got potential to really go someplace. So
really do well there.
And I feel so bad. So there's three kid characters in this film: Mimi, her brother Luke, and Luke's best friend, who happens to be Mimi's crush, Alasdair.
Alistair.
It's Alistair.
It's spelled weird. I got this
Alistair.
spelling.
Yeah, it's spelled weird, but they pronounce it Alistair.
Yeah. And she has him turned into a brain creature at one point in the film.
Well, she does it because Psycho Goreman, because PG basically convinces her to allow him to help her the way he helped the Prince of Sadaka seduce the Moon Prince, seduce the Moon Princess.
Yeah.
It just turns him into a giant brain goo
with tentacles, and
he's just kind of okay.
Which, it's sad. The end of the movie, in the end of the movie, he's still. That's actually so. The way the movie ends is obviously it ends with Psycho Goreman overcoming his adversity, getting his powers back, defeating the
Well,
knights.
he's poisoned. So his paladins of Sidian, which they say it fast enough that it always sounds like Paladin Obsidian.
Yeah.
Like thing there, which I know is the point, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah, they're just they betray him. And this is another callback, which I'm surprised you didn't bring up. The lead paladin is Darkscream.
Darkscream. And the thing is, some of the lines that PG uses are outright lines from Transformers when he's talking to Darkscream.
Yeah.
They just swapped that. They just name swapped the lines. It's but one of my favorite parts in the film is, he's been betrayed by the paladins. Mimi's like pissed because he's trying to get them to kill her so that he can get the stone back, and they betrayed everything. And so she's like, no, you don't get to fight back. And so there's this like epic moment where they're doing this huge beatdown. There's all these like dramatic camera angles. The music's blaring. You hear if everything is just so ramped up and epic, and then they just like switch back to like Mimi's perspective, like Mimi and Luke, her brother's perspective, and it's just like and basically you just see these guys like going and like hosing him down.
That's actually
I think Luke looks at her and says, "Do we need to be here for this?"
Well, that's actually something they do a couple of times. But it's one of those scenes. I actually really love this about the film. The very beginning where they're playing Crazy Ball, and that's Crazy Ball, and it's a good callback at the end, but it shows them there's like this metal music, and they're jumping around and throwing the ball, and this super intense like sports thing going on between Mimi and Luke, and then it cuts away, and it's just two kids like jumping up and down and throwing a ball up in the air in the
she's spinning around with the ball on her nose, and he's just doing jumping jacks, and they're both just yelling crazy ball, crazy ball, crazy ball.
So, and it's it's pretty fantastic. They do that a couple of times. They make a callback to that very moment at the beginning, at the end. That's how they resolve that's sort of how they resolve the final conflict. They have two teams split up between Mimi, Psycho Goreman, and Mimi and Luke's dad, and on the other side is Pandora, this Templar knight type being.
Or these basically this race of angelic space fascists.
Their mom, who hates, rightfully so, may I add, who hates their father, and Luke.
Yeah. Their father is such a piece of shit.
Unarguably the worst.
Oh God. And the bit, although he does have another one of my favorite bits, but you could say.
But they play Crazy Ball, and they do a callback to that very first moment where they're doing the whole epic theme,
And then it cuts to the space council, the universe council that want protected and want Psycho Goreman destroyed. And it's just them watching, like, without any context,
like
without any music, anything. There's does anybody understand what's going on here?
And then the credits stinger with them always makes me so happy. It's like, well, he's coming for us. So what do we want to do? Like, so what are we gonna do? And the guy pulls, like, it's literally just like a police revolver, slaps it down on the table, and he's like, well, who wants to kill themselves first?
But anyway, it's got that nice setup. It's got that setup like you have with all those other movies. Find it, teach him about the power of love, overcome the obstacles, have a final battle with the beings that he's in conflict with, and then he goes off to live his new life. And in this case, his new life is much like his old life, but he's motivated by love instead of hate.
Yeah. No, he's not motivated. He is powered.
Powered by, yes.
There's a little
That's
difference.
true. That's true. He's still motivated by, I guess, the wanton destruction of the universe, but
yeah, well, I think he's motivated because he believes that's his purpose. He's like, this is what I was meant to do. This is what I was like, sort of like this is my purpose, is to destroy all the everything and the everything and the everywhere.
And he goes off to do just that.
Yeah, but then he shows up. He shows up in, like, the middle of their hometown. Like, he doesn't even teleport that far. He doesn't go to some far part of the galaxy or anything. He just, like, goes like 10 miles
away. Yeah,
10 miles away, and then says, the downtown is currently being destroyed by what can only be described as a giant naked purple man.
Anyway, if we haven't sold you on this movie yet,
then you're dead inside and dead to me.
So, what I do want to touch on a little bit of the. So pretty much every one of the actors in this, and we're not going to go a play by play, are relatively unknown. There's a few of them that are. Have had some roles in Canadian. They're all Canadian. First off, this is a Canadian project, and they're all some of them have been in some Canadian films and series, TV series. Stephen Kostanski's he's done a number of stuff. In fact, he's done another one that I want to talk about eventually on here, which is The Void. It's cosmic horror. I really dug.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah. I think I don't remember who it was, but it might have been you. It might have been, but I think it was somebody else. But I think it was somebody else too. Said that I ought to watch The Void.
I think you did. I think you would dig it. It's almost a cross between The Thing and The Prince of Darkness.
Yeah. The one of the things that I have to really praise, I mean the Steven, the guy that does the voice of Psycho Goreman is his capacity to say completely outrageous, insane shit, utterly straight-faced, is really, really is admirable. Like, it's fucking amazing. Like, I think there's one of my favorite little things, and then a callback is there's a bit where he's staying in this abandoned shoe factory because Mimi told him to, and she shows up with a TV and a bunch of magazines, and she throws the magazines down, and he's like, why would I read these? And she's like, well, you don't read them, you just look at the hunky boys. And then he opens up the magazine. He's like, I care not for hunky boys, or do I? And then later on, when they're having the same fight in the abandoned shoe factory, Pandora blows up the magazines, and he goes, "No, my hunky boys!"
It is actually pretty fantastic. And it's one of those. There's a note. I don't know how important this is, but so Psycho Goreman physically was played by Matthew Ninneber, who's primarily a director. He only got a handful of acting credits, but he was voiced by Stephen Vlahos, he's one of the more prominent actors that has had roles in Canadian TV and films. And they did the same thing with Pandora. She's physically played by Kristen McCulloch, who happens to be I don't know why I have such a hard time. Alcidare's mom at the end of the movie, where his mom and dad, that scene with the mom.
Oh.
She happens to be playing his mom, but she physically plays Pandora, but she's voiced by an actress named Anna Tierney, who's a British actress. So
Pandora actually had 3 different actresses who played.
Technically 4. Yeah, 3, because the human version that she like morphs into.
The human version, the teacher that with that like and squish to do into the cube.
Yeah.
That I do have to say that was also like an amazing little like she's fucking evil, guys. Like dudes, she's evil.
She is. What were those that group of fascist angels called? I can't remember.
The Templars.
The Templars.
The Templars were
they were
angels,
they were all horrible. In fact, you find out,
and in fact, like they're the reason that PG existed as a godlike being.
Yeah, he
because they'd been enslaved, and then as he was being whipped and whatnot, he found the gem of Paraxodite, which was carved by ancient Gygaxian sorcerers from the heart of a dead star.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I really like this movie, and I have many of the quotes.
He has so much of it memorized.
Time is but a construct for primitive beings unable to shift into the 9th dimension.
Yeah.
Also, I got lost.
Yeah. So anyway,
God, I love it.
I honestly don't know how long we've been recording. I can see how long we've been recording, but I don't know.
Yeah, we've been recording for a huge amount of time.
Yeah. I think we're about the half hour mark, honestly. 30, 40 minutes long. So we one of our goals is we're gonna try and keep each episode roughly about 45 minutes to an hour. That's
so we got a little.
That's not necessarily going to happen with every episode. Sometimes we may go longer. Yeah. Sometimes we may be a little shorter, but
yeah. So here's the question: Do we want to end with your thoughts as a first-time viewer, or do we want to end with my thoughts as a near psychotic fan?
Well, I think we want to do a little more. We go through a little bit more of the commentary, then I'll give my thoughts, and then I think the person who suggested it should get the final say. Unless it's a mutual thing, and then it doesn't matter. But this one's yours. So one thing about this movie actually came out in 2021. It was. I'm assuming it was made before the pandemic started in 2020, and probably.
I'm actually gonna look.
I don't know when it was filmed, but it released in 2021, and it didn't do super well. It is a low budget movie. It does have some pretty decent effects, and the art direction is fantastic, and the creature makeup is awesome. One of the things that Steven Kostanski is he's a creature effects makeup guy, and so and that really actually shows. I've seen 2 movies of his now, this one and The Void, and you can really see that that's where his passion lies. In that's where his talent really is. And so I think any film that has him working on it.
What? I saw something. What did you say?
Well, go ahead.
Apparently, Psycho Goreman 2 is in development.
Well, there you go. So, and I think that we'll probably see it when it comes out.
Oh yeah. That's gonna happen.
But this movie did not do well at the box office. I don't know how many theaters it opened up in, but it had a budget of $1.5 million. It didn't even pull $100,000 in. So I honestly, one, it's pretty niche. It's satire. It's horror film. It's
and it's splatter. It's splatter horror.
Yeah,
it's supernatural splatter horror because like the major emphasis is on a lot of the like how gory it gets.
Yeah, which
even to the point when it's ridiculous. Like the robot guy who's like literally just a tub of blood. And he sort of shoots the blood at him.
I was gonna say one of the reasons he ends up getting the name Psycho Goreman is because of all the gore, which the kids seem when they first encounter him. That actually is one of my favorite scenes where they're workshopping his name, and they come up with Psycho Goreman, and he's all, "That's perfect. That's perfect. Psycho Goreman." He's like, "That's better than the Archduke of Nightmares."
I have no name, but some call me the Archduke. But my enemies sometimes call me the Archduke of Nightmares. And she's like, "No, that's lame."
But, and so it didn't do super well. And there is something to be said about streaming, and you have some thoughts on this, I can tell.
Yeah.
Shudder, it's on Shudder. You can watch this on Shudder. If you got a Shudder subscription, it's there. Psycho Goreman. There's a lot on Shudder. That was surprised.
Shudder's a really good, like, I mean, and no, we're not being sponsored at all by them because I know they do a lot of sponsor stuff, but they're like, if you're into horror, they're a really good
They are
source, honestly. Like they have so much.
And they
have a lot of international horror.
I was gonna say that the two best places for horror, I think, is Shudder and surprisingly Tubi, which if you can put up with ads, and I actually don't mind Tubi. The ads aren't super obtrusive, not unlike some of the other free streaming services. Tubi is the other one. If you like horror films, you can watch so many like old giallo, Italian giallo movies on Tubi. They've literally got like 5 or 6 like, well, I might be exaggerating, like 3 or 4 just horror categories as just collections that you can click on. And they also happen to have all of the what is the toy horror movies that you're really into?
The Puppet Masters.
They have like all the Puppet Masters. The Puppet Master.
Those things are awful. I love them so much.
The Puppet Master Extended Universe. They have that in there.
Yeah.
Including.
Except for number, I think it's 3. Puppet Master 3 has no right to be good, particularly be as good as it is. Like it's fucking crazy.
Well, the Tubi also has the Ginger Dead Man series. And the series about the Killer Bong,
which, isn't that Killer Bong? Isn't that the name of it?
It might actually be. I don't remember, but they're all interconnected. That and Doll Man and the Puppet Master. They're all like part of this like broader like extended universe. It's fucking ridiculous. But anyway, there's a lot of movies that have become available.
Yeah, it's called Killer Bong.
Yeah. There's a lot of movies available on streaming, and I'd forgotten, but you'd made a note about Thought Slime, who's a Canadian YouTuber who he does 2 YouTube series. One is Thought Slime, which he does kind of social commentary, political commentary.
Yeah, social commentary, political.
Yeah. And then Scaredy Cats, which he talks about horror films, and this is one of the ones he actually talked about on Scaredy Cats, and it's a lot of fun. And it's actually, and now that I'd forgotten he talked about it, but I'm almost positive that's how both of us got introduced to the concept of it.
Yeah, I think the difference is that I ended up grabbing the Shudder and watched it, and then completely fell in love with it.
Yeah, and I did not. And,
Yeah.
so you think it's a cult classic? I think it's not. No, I'm kidding.
I will end you, Frank.
But you're right. It has. That's one thing that streaming has done. Is it has made it so folks can get these flops that are, enjoyable films, maybe not necessarily good movies, but enjoyable movies, and revive them as cult films a lot sooner than they would in the past, because cult movies in the past, they'd have to end up on VHS, or you'd have to end up with,
And then it did the circuits of like people who like your backroom cinephiles, I think is what I would call them.
yeah.
Like
I mean, before VCRs became commonplace, and for those of you listening who don't know, VCRs used to be the way we watched movies back in the day. You'd almost have to have like just a copy of the film on film to watch it, and people would do that, the midnight movies and all that shit. But once VCRs became more commonplace, you could just go to the video store and rent movies.
Yeah,
there's
that's
a lot of
how I watched a lot of flicks.
Yeah, a lot of cult movies got it, but like, hey man, I saw this crazy ass horror film, and it's the one with the cover with the guy with the accent coming out of his forehead, and so
and I think one of the other things. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I think one of the things with the whole saving the flops, to me, looking at it, is I lost my point. Never mind.
Well, so one of the things I'm going to say is, for a film to become a cult film back in the day, is a long process, and it was because it was mostly just word of mouth. You'd had things like zines and stuff, but now you've got the internet, you've got forums, you've got Facebook, you've got Reddit, you've got this. Yeah. You want to go find a cool obscure movie that just came out, you can find it pretty easily.
You can also like the algorithms on the streaming sites will just sometimes bump something up because it's like, oh, there's a lot of like weird fantasy movies that are trending right now. Let's grab this one from the mid 80s and kind of bump it up.
So there's the process of something becoming a cult hit is a lot quicker. Unfortunately, because of streaming, and this is something that I was that I thought of when I first saw your notes. Unfortunately, because of streaming, some of these cult classics, if they don't get a physical release, they can disappear like that, because some of these streaming services are pretty fickle with how long they keep stuff on there.
Yeah, I'm having troubles with that with one of my cartoons on Disney Plus. I can't find physical copies of it that aren't like sketchy as shit.
Yeah, exactly. So streaming service is one of those double-edged swords, but it brings out a lot of these flops, like, and YouTube, commenters on YouTube also help bring out a lot of awareness. There's a lot of horror YouTubers out there that are bringing to light. Sorry, go ahead.
I also remember the point I was trying to make.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that I think happens with some of these films there is some movies just aren't as compelling on the big screen. Like some of the ones, like I find that it seems that people are a lot more willing to forgive certain aspects, certain like kind of like meh aspects of a film. When I'm at home, I can pause, I can run over to the bathroom, I can make a sandwich, I can come back, I can make some more popcorn, whatever, versus like with like when I'm going out to the cinema in order to do it, that's a whole big thing. Like that's an event, and if I make it an event, then it damn well better be as good as I want it to be.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good point.
Versus, you know, like there's a lot of these where like they're like, oh, this is like if I were to watch this on the big on like in a cinema there, I'd feel cheated because this is fucking garbage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. Like if you're spending $20 per person to go out and watch a movie at the theater, you want it to feel worth it. Whereas you
have a right to be picky. You have a right to be pickier, which I think is one of the problems that's occurring with like movie theaters in general right now.
Exactly.
Frankly,
and that's actually a topic we could bring up in like almost a
that could be an interesting if we were going to do that. I think actually I know a guy we could bring on.
Yeah, and I think we should.
I know a couple of guys to bring on to do that.
But one thing that I think, but you've got a good point there. That's one of the things that. If you watch a bad movie on a streaming service, especially if you watch a lot of the streaming service, then it was just a bad movie. You wasted an hour and a half, 2 hours of your life, and that was it. You didn't waste any more money because you still have the value of the streaming service itself. And so, yeah, I think we do have a different relationship watching stuff in our home. Even with the sound systems and TVs and stuff that we have now. I mean, because I mean, people got these 80, 90 inch televisions, 120 inch televisions with 4K, and you know, it's straight up a theater experience. But you can hit pause and be done with it. So my thoughts before we. It was a long digression to get to my thoughts. I enjoyed the film. I don't think I love it like you do, but it was a lot of fun. I would happily watch it again without any complaint. I think it's a great fun little romp, and it would be fun for like a viewing party with friends. One thing that it did do. And something I think that people need to be reminded of is there's a robust film industry in almost every country, like almost, and including Canada. And we don't think about it because it's so close, but they've got shit that we never even see here in the States because of it.
Yeah, I actually would like to bring one little quick point there that I was going to say with the Shudder thing is that one of the things that Shudder has a shitload of is Southeast Asian.
I noticed that,
horror flicks, and their supernatural stuff, like the supernatural stuff, like the stuff with curses and ghosts and everything, ghosts and demons coming out of Southeast Asia is fucking they have fantastic. A lot of like it is some of the freakiest stuff out there in a way that, like, you know, that any of the Western demon genre is just kind of meh and becoming less so. Like they're really ramping it up, and it's a whole new game.
Yeah, it's Shudder has a lot. So it's one of the things that like even like because we obviously we think like, oh yeah, France has their movie industry, Germany has their movies, England has their movies, and I think. Funny enough, I think that we get more British presence here in the U.S. than we do Canadian presence as far as like films and television shows, despite the fact that Canada's closer. But yeah, I think the movie's fun. If you like horror films, if you like campy, like kind of low budget gore fests, I think it's worth a viewing. So John, why do you love it?
I love it because and I've kind of like sown the seeds of all my reasons throughout the podcast here, but it reminds me so much of this is okay. A little story about a little story about my childhood. On Friday nights, Mom and Dad would have date night. And it would be me and my two brothers, and for a long time it was just me and my brother James when we were really young. And basically I'd get a big bag of Laffy Taffies, and he'd get a big bag of Cheetos Paws, and then we'd get 2 movies from the local video store, and they were always like, it was like, 3 ninjas, which I think is one of those adventure ones, but instead of pirates, it's ninjas. But ninjas are really just the pirates of the land. The not unlike prospectors or anything else that shows up in one of those movies. They're all just fucking pirates. Get over it. But we'd watch some of those, and so it has this like, it's this deep nostalgia, like this formative nostalgia, I think is what I would say there. And to find a film that is fundamentally adult that has those same things there, that sort of like that hits me that same way, but isn't like kiddish and well, and frankly, some of those are bad.
A lot of them are. Most of them are actually.
Yeah. I remember the day I broke Frank's heart when he made me watch The Goonies, because I'd never seen it, and I was not impressed.
It's still one of my favorites. Shut up.
I know it is. Hey, I know it is. I'm just
yeah. I would
anyway.
I would defend it by saying, as a kid's film, it's one of the better ones.
As a kid's film from the 80s specifically, I will give
anyway,
you
continue
that.
your thought.
The quality of children's film has gone up a lot, has far surpassed it in the
But anyway,
years
continue your
since.
thought. Let's.
Yeah. But I mean, that's so there's like it's like finding your childhood blanket and turning it into like a suit coat. I know it's weird and not serial killery enough for some of you people, for me to say, but that's kind of what it is. It's a suit. It's like a suit made out of. It's like when you find like a well-fitted suit that's made out of some of your old blankies. It's just there's just something about it that I find deeply and bizarrely comforting.
And I can see that. It's like I say, it's a fun film, and I think it's definitely worth a watch. And I can see how this is basically a movie made for. This is a kid's film made for adult John.
Yes, that is exactly what this is. This was made. There are many times when people don't realize they're making something specifically for me, but they are. This was made specifically for me.
Exactly. All right.
That ought to be that ought to be a feature or
a subtitle.
A part of the show. Yeah, things.
Well, I think
little subtitle like shows specifically for John.
Anytime we do a film, like or a comic or whatever that we choose, like this is what we're going to talk about. Then that's kind of the point, I guess, if that makes sense. So up next time the next episode we release will be a classic episode. So in between each regular episode, we'll be doing classic episodes. I don't know what we're doing yet. I'm going to look through our back catalog, and John and I will decide on it. I'll pick like 10, and then we can narrow it down to 5 and whatever. Clean it up a little bit.
Yeah. I'm betting we're probably going to stick to like single run comics or books and movies just for a while until we can get like a master list of like, do like series.
So at the moment, we're gonna be releasing one of our classic episodes, and then the next episode a new episode release probably will not be my film, and I don't want to say the name of it until we actually get there, because there's a good chance that you will still not have seen it by the time we record again here in a week or two, or week or so. Yes. But I think, let me think.
I just had the perfect joke, but I don't think it's one we should put on the podcast. When you're saying like my favorite movie, I said like it's Bears and Bukkake 9,
which is an inside joke that only like 4 people get. There's no guarantee that they'll even.
Yeah, there's only 4 people get. I had to have explained to me years after the fact.
Yeah,
and
but
Yeah. I don't think any of them listen to the podcast.
Well, one or two of them might. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure what we're doing next. I just know we're going to be releasing a classic episode, and the next one we record, we'll have a chat about. And you know what we should do? Because I'll have finished it by then.
What?
Should talk about Alan Wake remastered. I don't know if you have enough time to replay it in the couple weeks.
I'm not sure I'll have enough time. I might not be able to replay it, but if all else fails, I can watch. I have played.
You
through
have,
it, including all the DLC for that one, and I can hypothetically watch like a playthrough or do some.
Well, if you
watch some synopses, and
I mean, I'm sure you can find all the cutscenes. Pretty easy.
Well, there's also a lot of story. So because 2 is coming out, there's a lot of story so far.
Yeah.
YouTube videos.
I haven't spoiled myself. Well, I haven't super spoiled myself on it. I know a little bit of how it ends and stuff, but I will have finished it. I will have finished it probably by the end of next week, so we can do an episode on that, and I want to because it'll be nice for people. Well, maybe it'll be maybe it won't be nice for people. Maybe it will be jarring, like, oh, they talked about a movie last time, now they're talking about a video game. But I will have finished Alan Wake 2 or Alan Wake 1, and we can chat about that and then go from there. So the next live episode we do, we're going to be talking about Alan Wake, and we'll look for the classic episode that John and I will decide on in the next few days. And yes. And with that, remember, devouring your enemies means they deserve an honorable death.
And also, it's delicious.
Precisely.
Not my hunky boys! No!
Music, music, music. Music, music, music. Music, music, music.
Music, music, music. Music, music, music. Music, music, music. Music, music, music. Music, music, music.